any updates on this civil war that's going on in Cameroon over the language of French and English. But one of the things that I did not mention is that I am the representative to the African Union, and I represent the 6th region. And our purpose is to valorize African languages.
Hi, I'm Janice Hazel, and you're watching Urban Interest. This is what we're covering today. Facebook users class action lawsuit and Emmett Till's killer dead at age 88. Stay tuned. When we return from these messages, we'll delve into Emmett Till's killer.
Hi, I'm Herb Strather, and I want to appeal to the community to join me in the good fight, in the impact in the lives of our young people, for us to come together and build STEAM centers, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, so we can challenge them. They're good and smart just like I was, but they're ignored. We do not have the facilities. You know, individually, we can't do this, but collectively, we could come together and do it. We could find, fund, finance, fix, and do everything we need as a community. Now there's Greektown, Midtown, downtown Corktown. We're going to do Grand Rivertown. And we're going to use our community, the resources in our community to save our community. And it's going to be for our children. I want you to join us. And if you're interested, then I want you to go to Grand Rivertown and .com and register.
Thanks, Charles, for letting me use your gardening supplies. I'll make sure I put it back in the garage. Man, tending to that lawn is a lot of work.
Tell you the truth, Jim, I'm more concerned about keeping this house.
What's going on?
Well, you know, Sarah lost her job 2 months ago, right?
Yeah.
Since we lost that income, the bills have been piling up, and we're so far behind. I don't want to lose the house because of back taxes. I don't know what to do.
I understand. The same thing happened to my sister and her husband when he lost his job. Do you know that the Wayne County Treasurer has plans and programs to help people stay in their homes?
No, I didn't. Tell me about it.
Yeah, go to www.treasure.waynecounty.com to see if you qualify.
What's that site again?
www.treasure.waynecounty.com.
Got it.
Question. Do you know of John Henrik Clark or Dr. Francis Cress Welsing? Have you ever heard of Mansa Musa? Or do you know the difference between Native Americans and First Americans? Or why the ancient Egyptians wore their hair in dreadlocks or clean shaven like the brothers do today? Or who were the Barbary pirates really? Hint, they didn't look like Johnny Depp. Or why Haiti has the lowest COVID rate and America the highest in the world. At UIN TV, we have the answer to these questions and much, much more, because we are the keepers of our culture. Help us preserve this information and save it for your generations to come. Go to uintv.net, click on a channel to support, and subscribe today. Please do it now.
911, what's your emergency?
Oh my God! A child's been shot!
Signal 13 involving a child. The medicine route.
It is time. Time to put the guns down. We've had enough. My future.
My future.
My future. Our futures are in your hands.
Adults, put the guns down.
Wanna play? Sleep.
Walk to school.
Visit my friends.
It's time.
Time to end gun violence.
Our lives depend on it.
Adults, this is not a request.
We demand that you protect us.
Put the guns down. We have hopes. Dreams.
Goals.
Don't let a split second of anger with someone else take away my entire lifetime.
Help us live. Help us thrive.
Help us build a better future.
Need a little extra cash? Well, you can get your share of Facebook's $725 million lawsuit settlement if you have an active U.S. Facebook account between May 2007 and December 2022. The lawsuit was prompted in 2018 after Facebook shared the information of 87 million users with Cambridge Analytica. Here's more on that.
Facebook's parent company Meta began another round of layoffs this week in a continuing effort to downsize and restructure. 10,000 employees are expected to lose their jobs in this second round of layoffs, affecting mostly technical program managers, machine learning engineers, and UX researchers. And if you've used Facebook over the past 16 years, you could be eligible for a payout from the platform. It's part of a $725 million settlement from lawsuits against Facebook by users who accuse the platform of improperly sharing their data with third parties. So Cordelia James is joining us now to talk a little bit more about this. She is a reporter with the Wall Street Journal. Cordelia, when I heard this morning, I was like, where do I fill out my paperwork? Because God knows, like every 2 seconds I'm checking my Facebook page.
She's on Facebook all the time, so if anybody's been affected by anything, it's this one.
Yes, I'm sure. I'm owed. So this goes back to Cambridge Analytica. So like, take us back in time, remind us about Cambridge Analytica and how this all ties in.
Yeah, so essentially, Cambridge Analytica was like the big data firm in which like they were accessing user information, their data without their permission. And so because of that, and that helped them when they were helping the Trump administration during the 2016 campaign, which, you know, like if you didn't give them permission to access your data, that's not exactly fair. And because Meta failed to protect them, it becomes a problem.
Yeah, there was kind of like a leaker, like a sort of whistleblower who kind of exposed this whole thing. There were several documentaries about it, actually.
Yeah. So who is affected by this and who's eligible?
Yeah, so a lot of people are eligible for this. And this is if you happen to use Facebook in the US between May 2007 and December 2022, then you might get a piece of this settlement, even though it might not be that much.
How much money has been set aside?
So the way that they divvy it up, well, one, it's like you see that big $725 million number, but then you have to shave off administrative fees. A lot of that money will go to the lawyers who participated in this case. And so that can be as much as 25% of that already gone. And so after that, it kind of gets divvied up between, you know, you and me, people.
You can make a claim by visiting FacebookUserPrivacySettlement.com. You have until August 25th, 2023 to enter a claim to join the class action lawsuit. I already submitted mine. Turning now to Carolyn Bryant Donham, the white woman whose accusation led to the 1955 lynching of Black teen Emmett Till in Mississippi, and whose role in the brutal death was reconsidered by a grand jury as late as last year, died in Louisiana this week. In August 1955, 14-year-old Emmett was beaten and shot to death after he allegedly whistled at Bryant. Later that evening, her husband, Roy Bryant, and J. Millem took Emmett from his bed at his uncle's house and ordered him into the back of a pickup truck and beat him before shooting him in the head and tossing his body into the Tallahatchie River. They were both acquitted by murder by an all-white, all-male jury following a trial in which Carolyn Bryant testified that Emmett grabbed and verbally threatened her. After their acquittal in the Emmett Till trial, defendants Roy Bryant smoked a cigar as his wife Carolyn Bryant happily embraced him and his half-brother J.W. Millem and his wife. They all showed jubilation. The jury was out just 1 hour and 7 minutes. Not long after the trial in 1956, the pair admitted to murdering Emmett Till in an interview with Look magazine, showing no remorse. They confessed under the protection of the double jeopardy law. J.W. Mellom died in 1980 and Roy Bryant died in 1994. Emmett Till's murder became one of the key sparks that helped launch the civil rights movement. His mother, Mamie Till Mobley, decided to have an open casket at Emmett's funeral and let Jet magazine run the photos of his body to show the world the result of the ever-present evil of white supremacy. Over 50,000 people attended Till's funeral. The graphic photos left an indelible mark on all those who witnessed them and made Till Mobley a hero for her strength and dignity after experiencing the most vicious form of racial hate. In December 2022, Emmett Till and his mother, Mamie Mobley Till, were awarded a Congressional Gold Medal posthumously. In an interview conducted in 2007 by author Timothy Tyson, Carolyn Bryant Dunham admitted that she lied about the incident in 1955. She later recanted when brought before the Department of Justice in 2018. Throughout the years, Till's family wanted Dunham to be brought to justice for her fabricated story, which led to the murder of the Emmett Till we all came to know and love. In 2007, a Mississippi grand jury declined to indict Dunham on any charges. In 2018, the Department of Justice reopened the case that was originally closed in 2007. Eventually, the case was closed in December 2021, following the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division decision that it could not prove that Carolyn Dunham lied about her testimony. Malik Shabazz, with Black Lawyers for Justice, said in a statement this week that Dunham's legacy will be one of dishonesty and injustice. Shabazz went on to say, Carolyn Bryant's death brings a conclusion to a painful chapter for the Emmett Till family and for Black people in America. The tragic part about Bryant's death was that she was never held accountable for her role in the death of young Emmett Till, who is the martyr for the civil rights movement. The statement reads, Black Lawyers for Justice is a national organization of civil rights lawyers and affiliated counsel who are dedicated to causes of human rights policy, police brutality, and other critical areas of constitutional litigation, legal advocacy, and legal education. Give us a minute. We'll be back after these messages.
I'm Wayne County Treasurer Eric Sabri. We are living through unprecedented times with a global pandemic now approaching its third year. As a result, the Michigan Homeowner Assistance Fund was created. This fund, administered by the state of Michigan, is designed to help homeowners cope with pandemic-related hardships, such as delinquent property taxes. To see if you qualify, please visit. Call 313-388-9799 or email taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
Hi, I'm Herb Strather, and I want to appeal to the community to join me in the good fight, in the impact in the lives of our young people, for us to come together and build STEAM centers, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, so we can challenge them. They're good and smart just like I was, but they're ignored. We do not have the facilities. You know, individually, we can't do this, but collectively, we could come together and do it. We could find, fund, finance, fix, and do everything we need as a community. Now there's Greektown, Midtown, downtown, Corktown. We're gonna do Grand Rivertown, and we're gonna use our community, the resources in our community to save our community. And it's going to be for our children. I want you to join us, and if you're interested, then I want you to go to Grand Rivertown .com and register.
Question: do you know of John Henrik Clark or Dr. Francis Cress Welsing? Have you ever heard of Mansa Musa Or do you know the difference between Native Americans and First Americans? Or why the ancient Egyptians wore their hair in dreadlocks or clean shaven like the brothers do today? Or who were the Barbary pirates really? Hint, they didn't look like Johnny Depp. Or why Haiti has the lowest COVID rate and America the highest in the world. At UIN TV, we have the answer to these questions and much, much more because we are the keepers of our culture. Help us preserve this information and save it for your generations to come. Go to uintv.net, click on a channel to support, and subscribe today. Please do it now.
Today, we bring you the first part of our global broadcast exclusive conversation.
The streets of Tahrir have once again been filled.
Key issues here at the United Nations Climate Change Conference remain unresolved.
Police are saying the protesters to move further and further away.
I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Juan Gonzalez.
And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!
I have a special guest for you today, Professor Anita M Diop, who teaches African American and American history at Hopkinsville Community College in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. Anita is a native of Detroit, and I've known her since we were 8 years old when we were cheerleaders for the Westside Cubs Little League football team, as well as attending Cass Technical High School together. She serves as the advisor for the Minority Student Union and the History Club. She is also the founder and executive director for the African Roots and Heritage Foundation, better known as ARHF, which is a nonprofit organization with a mission to share African culture through public programs such as the African Roots and Heritage Festival, which drew 19 African nations together to plan and participate, building the bridges between the diaspora and the African continent. Their motto is celebrating our heritage while confronting the challenges of being Black. Professor Diop specializes in culture and arts, and her scholarly works include Katherine Dunham, an African American cultural icon, and various essays and articles. Professor Diop also is a travel photographer and has exhibited her photographic essay entitled Eyes of the African Princess at the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History in Detroit, and many other government sites, colleges, and universities. To her credit, she is also an award-winning short film director and producer. Welcome, Anita.
Thank you, Janice, for having me on the show. Such a wonderful introduction.
Well, you
it's
are.
Good seeing you.
It's good seeing you also. Now, everyone needs to know exactly where are you right now?
Right now, I am in Central Africa in a country called Cameroon in the main capital city of Yaoundé.
Yaoundé. So why are you there and how long have you been there?
I am here. I've been here since February the 25th of 2023, but I think I come at least twice a year. And when I come, I stay 2 to 3 months. And the reason why I'm here this time, as I feel that my ancestors have called me to do, we're actually opening up our first international branch of the African Roots and Heritage Foundation. I have found a community of people, colleges, universities, professionals, as well as government and employees that need my services. So I decided this is the place where we will begin to open up the first international branch of the African Roots and Heritage Foundation.
Fantastic. I've had awesome experiences traveling to different parts of Africa, including Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa, the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire, better known as the Ivory Coast, Egypt, and others. But you know, a lot of undereducated Americans think Africa is one country and don't know that Africa is a continent. So we have to constantly teach. And to expand on that, correct me if I'm wrong, Anita, there are 48 countries that share the area of mainland Africa, plus 6 island nations are considered to be a part of the continent. All in all, there are 54 sovereign of African countries and 2 disputed areas, namely Somaliland, which is the autonomous region of Somalia, and Western Sahara, occupied by Morocco and claimed by the Polisario. So I was most impacted, as most Black Americans would be, at the Cape Coast Castle on the shores of the Ghanaian city, where a sordid history belies the great beauty of the castle overlooking the Atlantic Ocean. It was a former slave trade outpost or fortress, and it's home to the so-called door of no return. Some call it the gate of no return, through which millions of our African ancestors were confined before being forced onto slave ships bound for the United States. So, Professor Diop, where exactly on the African continent is Cameroon? You said central?
Yes, it's Central Africa.
Okay.
Really to the core or the heart of Africa. And Cameroon is known as Africa in miniature, meaning that it experiences all the seasons, all the terrains, the animals, everything that's in Africa can be found in Cameroon.
All right. What languages do they speak in Yaoundé?
Well, there's many. They officially have over 250 languages. But for the working languages, there's French as well as English. And if you've had any updates on the civil war that's going on in Cameroon over the language of French and English. But one of the things that I did not mention is that I am the representative to the African Union, and I represent the 6th region. And our purpose is to valorize African languages. So while Cameroon is embroiled in fighting over which colonizer's language is the language of use, the African unions and other units and civil society such as mine, we are promoting African languages first and then the colonizer's language. So it should not be a war or ideologies being fought over someone else's languages when we have our own language that we can valorize and actually uplift and instill pride in the individuals.
Absolutely. If Black Americans wanted to live in Cameroon, what's the cost of living like? For example, housing, rent, groceries, education?
That's a very good question. The prices are, excuse me, are very comparable to the United States. Currently, as I said, we're opening the office, so we're looking for office space, and the prices that I've been getting is anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 American dollars per month for office rental space. So depending on the area you go in, the price can go up or the price can go down. So I have not found in Cameroon a cheaper cost of living. Actually, I believe that Cameroon suffers from what we call in the United States the black tax. They pay more for everything. And in looking and opening the office, I'm trying to secure computers and printers and everything that would make up an office. And I'm finding every item is priced $200 to $300 more than what I could get in the United States. So I've gone to the point of even pricing those same items in the United States plus the shipping to see if I can get it cheaper than actually purchasing those items here in Cameroon.
What jobs are in demand in Cameroon?
In Cameroon, IT jobs are in high demand. And this is a place where individuals, if they have the skill or talent, they can open up their own business. They're more business oriented versus job oriented. So if you have a good skill, especially in IT, because that's the future, technology and everything, and even we discussed with the African Union just this past February how IT can actually help with language. So the field is wide open for IT developers and developing apps utilizing native languages. They can be used in the hospitals, doctors' offices, attorneys' offices, so forth and so on. So there's so much need here that they have more need than they have IT technical persons.
You know, I have a Windows-based computer and I subscribe to Microsoft 365, and I was having some problems with some of my apps. And I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning trying to get things figured out a few months ago. And so I did a chat session with a specialist, and that person was in Nigeria. And of course, their time difference. And the tech was extremely helpful. And I got to a point where he had to actually remote into my computer to see what it was that was going on. And so, as we've seen, particularly with the COVID-19 pandemic, more remote jobs. But it's wonderful to know that if you wanted to go to Cameroon as a Black African American, you could go there and set up I guess, an IT business, some IT architecture and you have a good workforce there.
Yes, yes. One of the personalities, I've traveled to over 32 different African countries. And one of the personalities that I say that sticks out more than any other country is that the Cameroonians hustle. And when I say hustle, at 4 o'clock in the morning, you hear the engines revving, people are getting out, going to their businesses, going to their work, and they're just in motion all the time. I've been to other countries where you see men laying under palm trees, just sleeping the day away. And I compare and say, okay, they're sleeping, these people are moving, they're in motion, and they love music. You will always hear very loud and music that makes you want to dance at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Okay. Well, you are right at home because we all know that Detroit hustles harder, right?
Yes.
Tell us more about your photojournalism and some of the countries that you've visited. I think I've been to maybe 8 and you've been to 32. So tell us more about the photojournalism.
Well, it started out in 1997. I was in college and I took a experiential history class, which actually took us to 5 different countries, which was Senegal, the Gambia, Ghana, Togo, Benin, and South Africa. And my grandmother had said, I'll never get a chance to go to Africa. I always wanted to go. And she said, but let me see Africa through your eyes. And because of that, I went out and bought a camera and I shot 100 rolls of film, didn't know what I was doing, but I was determined to give her her desire. And in so doing, when I finally took the trip, we were gone for a month. We went to those countries and I was able to capture my visit, and people will say, wow, I really feel like I've been to Africa. So my pictures were telling the story, and I was encouraged to, through my professor, they did my first photo exhibit at Wayne State University, and someone said, these pictures need to be in a museum. And I said, okay. So I contacted the museum, the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History, and they said, yes, we will put you on exhibit. I was on exhibit from December of 2003 until April of 2004. And during that time, the curator made a note and said that of all the artists that have exhibited in the museum, I fall in the top 10% of the artists. And I kept listening to the word artist. I never considered myself an artist. I was simply trying to capture the picture so my grandmother would feel like she was actually in Africa.
Fantastic. Well, that brings me to, we were both educated in the Detroit public school system in the
That's
1960s,
correct.
70s, and 80s. And at Cass Tech, we were both performing arts students. So you've got
Yes.
that artist, it's deep inside of you. But I don't recall any African history lessons or curriculum there. There was a glossing over of the civil rights movement, no lessons on Black American excellence or entrepreneurism. I learned about African art, African excellence in education, the arts and culture from my parents, who exposed us to the Dance Theater of Harlem, the Alvin Ailey Dance Troupe, and a number of others. Tell us about your Catherine Dunham. How did you get inspired to write about her and to study her?
Okay. Again, I was in college and I had actually completed all of my studies for my master's degree. And I had taken a dance class. And in the dance class, I learned about the Catherine Dunham technique. And it just learning about her life and what she stood for, how she agitated for civil rights through her artistry, how she was able to take her art and change the environment in which we live and fight against racism. In addition to spirituality, music, dance, and how it all tied together. At the time I was doing my studies, I had spirituality over here, I had dance over here, I had music over here, and I didn't know how to pull it all together and make it make sense. And once I took that dance class, I said, I understand. I utilized her life to talk about everything that I had learned and made it in that rhythm, in that music, in that heartbeat that we as African Americans, we are the rhythm people. So I was able to make everything line up through her life. And that's how I produced the Catherine Dunham, an African American cultural icon.
That's phenomenal. What is your approach to teaching African American and American history?
Well, I believe in telling the truth. And because I have traveled to the slave trade route through Ghana, the door of no return, to Gorée Island in Senegal, to the gate of no return, to Angola, and here in Cameroon, to Bimbia and other sites along the coast, I start in Africa teaching my students that we or our ancestors were not slaves, but they were kings and queens. They did have a language. They did have cultural patterns. They did have housing. They did have rituals to which was taken from us, but yet some of those things remain with us as African Americans. We just don't know how to identify it, but a lot of our culture we brought with us and we have retained it. So I start in Africa making us human first. And then we go through the slave trade where we deal with our dehumanization and how we became slaves, books, mammies, and the tragic mulatto, okay? And then I rebuild us as we go through the ages of Reconstruction, becoming the new Negro, becoming the Negro, becoming the Afro-American, and finally to the place of being African-American. So it all deals with identity, and that's what I focus on in my teachings.
What are your thoughts on the movement to cancel and erase Black history in the United States? And how can we counter that movement in our public schools and universities?
I think everyone should take it seriously. We have gone through a phase where we have been desensitized to our own history. We have leaders and or celebrities to say, I haven't left anything in Africa. I'm not an African American. I'm just an American. Just call me Black. And all these things say that I am not proud of who I am. I am ashamed of who I am. And if this makes the white culture uncomfortable, then I feel good at shrinking back and shrinking down and not being my true authentic self. So we have a problem with identity and acceptance, and psychologically it has damaged us in a way that we don't know that when they substitute the word slave for internship, that gives a total different mindset. As the school system in Texas, they have stricken the word slave to only utilize the word intern. And what does an intern mean? A person who comes to work for free. So for a child that's 6 years old, they're learning that African Americans were interns. As they grow up believing that they were interns, when a racial incident occurs, they're going to say, but your ancestors were interns. What is your problem? So psychologically, they're training the society to perpetuate us in a second class position. And then there's some of us that also believe it and don't understand that we have to fight and hold steady what we are, who we are, and the tragedy that occurred to us. And that if we just cannot forget it. We just cannot say, oh, well, you know, that happened 300 years ago, 150 years ago. No, things have happened. Emmett Till, it hasn't been 60 years since the Emmett Till incident, meaning that it happened within our age. If it happened during the time that we're living, that is current history. So it's not way, way afar off. It is right here and right now. And we have to be cognizant of the fact that they're fighting diligently to remove Black history or African American history, African American studies, or anything and everything that pertains to the African and being traumatized by society.
I have another question for you before we wrap up, because we could just go on and talk more and more as you teach. At Hopkinsville, do you have non-Black students?
Definitely. I have the area, the demographics, I have Asians, Mexicans, the Caucasian population, as well as the African American population.
And in your, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes, so I teach a variety of races in my classes.
And with the non-Black students that you teach, what are their reactions to the African part of history that you bring out, and then the African American part of history? Are they disturbed? Are they all of the things that are Republican Party members that are trying to erase all aspects of the African and the Black American experience from history books? How do those non-Black students, and particularly those white students, how do they react when learning the truth about history, and particularly the slave trade?
That's a very good question. Actually, when I first accepted the job, my family did not want me to go. They said, no, we don't want you to go to Kentucky and teach what you teach. But I was compelled, and I have to say that the good, bad, and the ugly comes out. So you have the students that will give you their family history, that in fact, their family is part of the KKK. And you will have those students who were the poor whites that didn't have anything to do with slavery. They were just there as a condition, and they weren't a part of the dominant class. They were part of that underclass that Kevin Bacon fought about years ago in the war. So overall, my acceptance in the teaching, the students are put on fire to learn more. I even had one student, I had introduced some African music, and he did his final report on the influence that African music has had on America, period. And he swears that he will always listen to African music. He researched so many African artists I'd never even heard of, and they were very popular in their countries, and some of them were world renowned. But the impact is very great. I haven't had any negative impact in my classroom at all.
That is a wonderful story to tell. Well, as I said, there's so much more to talk about with Professor Anita Diop, but we have to wrap up this segment. But we want to have you back, whether you're still on the continent in Africa or if you're back here in Detroit, because this is what our students and our adults need to know about African history and the continent in particular. So thank you for joining us all the way from Cameroon. Over 6,000 miles or 12.5-hour flight. And we love you. Travel mercies when you get back. And I hope to see you soon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on the show. Definitely.
All right. We'll be back after these messages. Stay tuned.